Welcome to another video from ExplainingComputers.com. This time we're going to look at Chrome Remote Desktop. This allows a computer running Windows, Mac OS, Chrome OS or a Linux distro to be remotely accessed over the internet. So for example, on this computer running Linux Mint, I can use Chrome Remote Desktop to access a remote computer running Chrome OS Flex. Here I've accessed the remote computer in Firefox using a one-time code and without installing any software on the client PC. However, by installing Chrome Remote Desktop at both ends, it's also possible to set up persistent remote access to a distant computer. As I've already noted, Chrome Remote Desktop can be used in two distinct ways. The first is called Remote Access and provides persistent access to a host computer. To use this option, Chrome Remote Desktop needs to be installed on both the host as well as on the client computer that is remotely accessing it. And both the host and the client need to be logged in to the same Google account. So, this provides a potentially useful way to obtain remote access to one of your own computers. The second option is called Remote Support and provides one-off access that has to be accepted by the user of the host computer. Here, only the host computer has to have Chrome Remote Desktop installed, and the host and the client do not need to be logged in to the same Google account. So, this option can be very handy if you want to provide computing assistance to a remote relative or friend. Right, let's do a demonstration of the remote support option. Specifically, we're going to access this computer, which is my laptop running Windows 10, on this computer, which is running Linux Mint. And on each computer, we need to go to a web browser, which can be Chrome, Firefox or Chromium. And here in Linux Mint, we're going to use Firefox like that. And we're going to go to the web address remotedesktop.google.com. And back on the Windows machine, we need to do exactly the same thing. Here I'm going to use the Chrome browser, but we'll go to the same place like that. And it's important to note that to use remote support, both computers must be logged in to a Google account. But this does not have to be the same Google account on each computer. So here on the host computer, the one we want to access from the other one, I'm going to click on Remote Support. And because Chrome Remote Desktop is not currently installed, the first thing we need to do in this share the screen rectangle is to click on the download icon like that, which will take us to the Chrome Web Store, where we can add Chrome Remote Desktop to Chrome like that. So we'll do that and click on Add Extension. And exactly what happens now will depend on how your computer is set up. If it's set up like mine, so it actually asks you where you want to save things when you download, it's slightly trickier, so I thought I'd show you this way. It might be automated for you directly, but if not, you'll see this. And what you have to do here, rather than clicking on Accept and Install, is to click down there like that to execute the file and a yes like that. And it'll get on doing stuff. There we are. And now we can click on Accept and Install over there. And hopefully, there we are. We've added Chrome Remote Desktop to this computer. And we can see we've done it because up here under this jigsaw icon, we can see extensions. And we now include Chrome Remote Desktop. So, to access this computer from the other one, all we now need to do is to click on Generate Code, like that, and this will generate a one-time code which will last for 5 minutes, as you can see it counting down already. So what we need to do is to go back to our Linux computer over here, and here we'll click on also Remote Support, and then we'll scroll on down to the second option, Connect to another computer, and we'll enter the code that was just generated. There we go, this is a one-off code, so it's safe for me to show it to you because it's never going to work again. And I'll click on Connect, like that, and it says it's connecting. But if we go back to the Windows computer like this, you can see it's now asking if we want to allow the Google account with the email address shown on the screen to control this computer. So we'll click on Share like that to say yes. There we are. And this little thing comes up at the bottom that says we can stop sharing if we wish. But if we go across back to the Linux computer over here, then there we are. We are now sharing the screen. It is working. We've got the other computer displayed here in our browser. So we could get rid of the web browser like that and also close that down on the desktop. And here we are. With Windows, we could get down hopefully to the Windows menu like that, bring up, I don't know, Adobe Acrobat just to show something works. As you can see, we're running programs here on the Windows computer, but accessing a web browser in Linux Mint. And it's worth noting on the side of the screen here, we've got various options. There's one to disconnect. There's various options in terms of how we use the screen. We can full screen, for example, like that. We can turn off scaling if we wished, which makes things look slightly strange. We can enable synchronization of a clipboard. And we've also down here got, if we really want to use it, Stats for Nerds. We can bring that up and see on the screen overlaid what's going on in terms of this connection. It's all very exciting. But I think for now we will disconnect like that, which takes us back out. And it's worth stressing that Chrome Remote Desktop can be used to provide remote support access not just to a Windows computer, but also one running macOS or Linux or indeed Chrome OS. So, for example, by the magic of filmmaking, I've now installed the software here in Firefox in Linux Mint, and we can now just click on Generate a Code. And if we go across to our Windows laptop and enter the code, there we are connecting. And if we just go back to the Linux Mint system, we have to share as previously. And then if we go back to Windows, there we are. We are now accessing the Linux Mint machine here in Windows 10. And as previously, we'll just give a full screen like that. That seems to be a rather good idea. There we are. And let's just minimize the browser. And clearly, this is working. We're accessing our Linux Mint machine from our Windows laptop. Right, let's now take a look at the remote access option, which allows persistent access to a remote computer. As previously, this works in the Chrome, Firefox and Chromium browsers, but here both computers must be logged in to the same Google account. So, here in Windows, let's go to the web page as previously, but now we're going to go to the remote access section. You probably would have guessed that. And because we've got Chrome Remote Desktop already installed on this computer, we can see it up there. We look under extensions, there it is. Because it's pre-installed, all we have to do is to click on Turn On, like that. And we need to give a name to the computer. We can use the one the computer already has, but here I'm going to call it WinPC, like that, which seems logical. And we'll click on Next. And now we have to enter a PIN of at least 6 numbers or more. There we go. And Windows just wants to check this is okay. We'll tell it it is okay, like that. And our Windows PC is now online. So if we go back to our Linux Mint PC and go to the web page and go to Remote Access, if the world is with us, it is! The Windows PC is now available to access. Remember, we're logged in here on the same Google account where we set up the Windows PC, which is why it's visible to us here in the Chrome Remote Desktop. And if we click on the Windows PC like that, and we enter our PIN, there we go, we've now gone straight into accessing Windows. The Windows machine didn't have to give us permission because it's set up for remote access. And once again, we can use the menu at the right to full screen things. And it's worth noting we've got a few more options here. If we go down here, you might notice we have got upload and download file options. So if we click on, I think it's download file, this opens up a file requester on the Windows PC. We can pick up, for example, that image there like that and open. And let's now just try and have a look at what we've actually downloaded. Let's just take us off full screen and minimize the browser here. We're now back in Linux Mint. Let's go to presumably download. It'll have dropped it into. It has, there we are, there's the file we just brought across from Windows. That's rather clever, isn't it? And we go back to our machine, there we are, let's full screen it again. We are running Windows perfectly happily. We can open up this PC, we can go down to the menu there, and if we want we could even, for example, run the Windows calculator. We're now using the Windows calculator here in Linux via Chrome Remote Desktop. Isn't it amazing what you can do with computers these days? This said, I should caution that whilst accessing a Windows computer via remote access in Chrome OS Desktop works very well indeed, I have had some problems the other way around accessing a Linux machine using remote access. and indeed, in my experience, it's far more reliable to use the remote support option to get remote access to a Linux computer rather than using remote access. Now, having demonstrated Chrome Remote Desktop working in a web browser, I should point out there are other ways to access it. For example, on this computer running Windows 11, I've installed Chrome Remote Desktop as I've just shown you, and it's added an icon on the desktop to take us to a Chrome Remote Desktop web app, and it's also added that into the menu. We go into the menu here into All Apps, and the bizarre way Windows 11 provides us with a menu, but there we are, there is Chrome Remote Desktop. And so we can run it up like that rather than launching a web browser. It's also worth being aware there are Chrome Remote Desktop apps available for iOS and for Android, and here I've installed the Android app, so we can click on my Win11 test rig PC, which is available online, enter the PIN, and here we are accessing a Windows 11 PC on an Android device, which obviously isn't ideal given the size of the screen and the keyboard availability on most Android devices, but it does prove that Chrome Remote Desktop is very flexible indeed. You may be thinking, why use Chrome Remote Desktop rather than Microsoft Remote Desktop, which is based on Microsoft's Remote Desktop Protocol, or RDP? Well, this is a good question, and there are two good answers. The first is that, whilst any modern version of Windows can run Remote Desktop, it can only be used to remotely access computers running the Pro or Enterprise editions. So, you cannot use Microsoft Remote Desktop to access a computer running Windows 10 or Windows 11 Home Edition. But you can use Chrome Remote Desktop as I've shown in this video. Secondly, Microsoft's Remote Desktop only allows remote access to a Windows PC. So, if you want free software that enables remote access to a computer running macOS, Chrome OS or a Linux distro, Chrome Remote Desktop is well worth considering. Any form of remote access potentially opens up a doorway for hackers. So, is Chrome Remote Desktop secure? Well, the service uses Google's infrastructure, which I've no doubt is very secure. However, whether a particular individual's use of Chrome Remote Desktop is secure will depend on how they use it. And here we need to consider the two parts of the offering separately. Starting with remote support, use of this service should be secure as only a temporary one-off connection is established. Furthermore, the user of the host computer needs to actively generate the required access code, rapidly communicate it to the client, and then accept the client's attempt to connect. So, using remote support should present a very low security risk. In contrast, using remote access could potentially be risky, as once you've set up a computer for remote access, it's only as secure as the Google account to which it's been linked. Now, Google accounts can be very secure indeed. For example, if the user has enrolled in the Advanced Protection Program. Or if at the very least they maintain a strong password and have activated two-step verification to link account access to a phone or security key. However, many people still don't take such basic security measures. So, if you're such an individual, I would advise that using remote access is potentially risky. And if you want advice on making your Google account secure, take a look at my cybersecurity video on protecting online accounts. Chrome Remote Desktop is excellent free software for providing support to the user of a remote computer. And the ability to set up remote access to your own machines running a variety of operating systems is potentially also very useful. However, to keep things secure, I would strongly advise only using the remote access option with a Google account that's protected with two-step verification. But now that's it for another video. If you've enjoyed what you've seen here, please press that like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I hope to talk to you again very soon.